and moves were made. Hands were shook, money exchanged hands, possibly drugs. But it was all good. It was all in the name of fantasy football.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dynasty. Like I said, we all see things differently.
Put it on his shirt.
I just drank what tasted like a root beer, but now I'm feeling kind of tipsy.
Ride that unicorn, my friend.
I was really going to do an awful Mexican accent, but I realized how mad I'd be at someone else for doing that. So, hi.
We all are very intrigued and very interested in what will happen this year.
.35 in the a.m. It is Thursday morning. This is Peter Livingston, host of the Dynasty podcast, a seasonal podcast in which 12 friends enter, one leaves champion, and everybody hates him. It is week 4 in the Dynasty. Very excited. Hope everybody had a good week 3. We did our recap episode. Now we are looking forward to the future. Lots of things to cover. We got a good Thursday night game. Actually, historically, not very good, but we have, and that's not good for me because I have Aaron Rodgers going, but we have the Packers and we have the Bears. Bears going in week 4, Thursday night. It should still be fun. We got some people that have some fairly significant pieces of their team going tonight. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But we have some news and notes. We have transactions, of course. Waiver wires happen. I'll be giving you guys Robin's report card grade for the waiver wire and free agent pickups and drops. And then we have the return of Patty projections. So Pat, for years, used to do Patty projections. They were very popular. We all liked them very much. And they took a little bit of a backseat for a while, college workload and so forth, but they're back. So we're really excited for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. They're funny. A lot of it can be very tongue in cheek, but hopefully you guys enjoy it too, and it's something we plan to keep doing in the future. So let's go ahead and let's look for some news and notes. A couple of new things actually coming out today. A lot of stuff can happen in 24 hours. A lot of fun stuff, especially when I'm looking at my team. Some things that I've been kind of hoping to happen are finally happening, and it has to do with the New Orleans backfield and also the New York Jets backfield. Adrian Peterson misses practice on Thursday, which is today, because he tweaked his knee on Wednesday. And, of course, I don't want him to be injured. But my hope is that they would just find some way to get rid of him. The double-digit touches that he's taking every week away from that backfield has been an absolute nightmare. And if he goes away, that automatically makes Ingram so much better. And if it's something going forward, that'd be just absolutely A-okay with me. So if you have any piece of that backfield in any of your leagues, you are extremely happy right now, because that's double-digit touches. Maybe 7 of them goes to Ingram, 3 to Kamara, maybe 8 too. Doesn't matter. It's just thank goodness something is finally happening there, because I hate situations where you have more than 2 running backs. It just drives me freaking crazy. And of course, when I traded for Ingram, it was weeks before the Peterson acquisition, and then when that happened, I was just like, oh god. So bamboozled by our vice president. But yeah, Adrian Peterson tweaked his knee. Hopefully they just say, you know what, we don't want to deal with this. You're cut. You're gone. Don't know if that'll happen, though. But real big news for me and Mark Ingram owners all around the league. Definitely good news for production. Jordan Reed, various injuries as always, is practicing Thursday. No surprise there. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play on Sunday. He's notoriously plays through injury. I don't think he can really be worried about him, but you never know. I don't know if Elliott wants to try and hedge that, pick up Vernon Davis. Maybe somebody wants to handcuff him. Go get Vernon Davis. Kelvin Benjamin's back at practice. That has to be good. He went out with an injury. Had a little bit of a knee injury. He had a knee injury. But already being back at practice has to be good for owners. And I think that if you are in that camp, you're hoping that maybe they move away from Cam Newton, try something else. I'm interested to see what they do this week in terms of their quarterback play. Do they stick with Cam? It just seems like he's not fully healed. He hasn't really been airing it out this year. The accuracy isn't there. It just seems like there's just something off. And I don't know if they'll just put him on the shelf and try and let him heal up or just keep running him out there and just be atrocious. Jay Ajayi tweaked his knee, but he's expected to play as per usual. I'm hoping for a nice matchup there. And then in terms of Rob Kelly is back practicing on Thursday. He, of course, had the cartilage injury in his ribcage. And in terms of the New York Jets backfield, Matt Forte likely out, turf toe. Same thing. Matt Forte, second half of the year last year, was an absolute beast. Or maybe the last third of the year when he stopped sharing with Forte. Kind of started out heavy workload with Forte. They started splitting. Forte got hurt. And then Bilal Powell just blew up. And everything in the offseason was saying it's Bilal Powell's job. He's got it. He's an all-pro talent. He'll make the Pro Bowl. He's going to be this. And then next thing you know, we're coming into the start of the season, and Matt Forte is getting the majority of carries. And I don't exactly know why that happened or what was going on there, but it obviously threw a wrinkle in what I was hoping to get out of Bilal Powell this year. It's been really rough the past few weeks. I'm hoping that this turns into a long-term thing. I hope Matt Forte just ends up retiring and just goes away so Bilal Powell can just go back to getting a heavy workload and producing fantasy football points. Outside of that, Melvin Gordon had a little bit of a knee thing, but he's back at practice, probably going to play. And then I think that's about it. In terms of defense, Myles Garrett is back. He's practicing with the Browns, and the Browns have had an improved defense this year. I know they're still very Browny, but I think they're taking steps in the right direction. And I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy to see that. I think it's horrible when there's franchises that just flounder for so long and can never get anything truly going. I think it's just kind of a bummer. And seeing their number one draft pick come back, and hopefully, I'd like to see him out on the field. I like seeing those young guys get out there and wreak some havoc, kind of like Joey Bosa last year. And I'd like to see Myles Garrett this year. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch him play. But that's about it in terms of news and notes just from the past 24 hours. Not a lot, but what did happen was fairly significant. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend with those backfields. What kind of workload do they get? New York went and signed him. I'm blanking on the young running back's name, but they went and signed him off of free agency and brought him in. So I'm somewhat excited. Looking forward to this weekend now. Let's move on to transactions. Specifically, we're going to go and dive into the wonderful world of our vice president and his grading that he does every week for the Dynasty in terms of waivers and free agent acquisitions. And we had a lot of interest, to be completely honest, we had a lot of interesting open discussion in regards to waivers after the waiver deadline had come and passed. Some good points were brought up. People were talking about when waivers come into play in terms of when they go through. Right now it's set at midnight Pacific Standard Time. Some people were saying, well, it's a little bit unfair for some of us on the East Coast because that's 3 a.m. We're typically sleeping. And some people are saying, well, you got to set your alarm. I set my alarm. And then some people were saying, why don't we just have a rolling waiver wire? And there were some discussion about that and some good points made. Ultimately, I think everybody agreed that it's better just to have a set waiver priority day and time, and then we move on to free agency from there. I've been in leagues with rolling waivers, and it can get overly manipulated with people picking guys and dropping guys, and then you can't get them for 2 days or 1 day, and it just gets really weird. So I'm not a big fan of that. Some people in some other leagues may incorporate that, but I've had some bad experiences with it. I kind of felt like in terms of waivers, and I think Elliot said that he doesn't believe that he has the ability to change the time of when waivers process. And I kind of thought like, well, if he did it semi-early morning, maybe 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that would probably be a little bit more fair for the East Coast people. That'd be, 11. So I don't know. That I kind of felt like that could be some even ground. Some arguments were made against it regarding, there's no good time, and maybe there is no good time. But maybe midnight is a little rough for most people. So we had a lot of discussion about that, about not just when waivers take place, but also waiver priority. And I'm kind of in the vein to be completely honest, it seems like I was the only one to make a waiver claim. I thought there were a few more on defenses. I thought that somebody made a claim on Kansas City and another defense, but apparently not. I presumably made the only waiver claim, and there were talk of, oh my gosh, it's so dumb because all everybody does is not make a waiver claim and then wait for waivers to pass and then just snatch everybody up on free agency without losing waiver priority. And my answer to that is, well, if our league is overly valuing waivers and waiver priority, then your waiver priority, if you're the only one using it, is higher. And that was kind of my mindset. I was like, well, I'm at 6. What am I going to do? Just sit around and risk losing a player because I'm holding the idea of having number 1 or number 2 waiver priority so close to my heart? I just thought it was dumb. And I was like, you know what? I needed a tight end. I went and got a tight end. It's been a very volatile position. Everybody knows that I made a horrible mistake when I reported my keepers and not reporting Zach Ertz. And I've been paying for it dearly. It actually probably costed me my week 2 match against Elliott. But I think that everybody just needs to reevaluate how they are evaluating waiver priority. If there is somebody that you like and everybody else is so hellbent in the first 1 through 5 positions and holding on to waiver priority, waiting for somebody else to blink, your lower priority then is that much stronger. We've seen this before in past years where people would have the number 1 or number 2 spot and we're just waiting for something. I don't know what. I really don't know what people were waiting for. Maybe they were waiting for the second coming of Adrian Peterson. It never happened. It never came. We saw Tahir sit on the number 1 spot and passed on I think it was Williams, right? The Pittsburgh running back. I can't remember. But the Le'Veon Bell, when Le'Veon Bell went out, you essentially missed Le'Veon Bell production for about 6 games. And that's something that I think we need to reevaluate as a league. I don't think there's anything wrong with waivers. I don't think there's anything wrong with the waiver process outside of maybe the time. I think that is something that I was like, okay, you could probably make an argument to look at that. But in terms of waiver priority, use it. You know, if you want a guy, go use your waiver priority. If you want to wait for that special blowout player that's going to take the world by storm, I don't know if he's out there, but that's your priority if you're going to hold those top spots. But otherwise, if you have a need at a position and there's somebody out there, yeah, don't wait for free agency. Put in multiple waiver claims. If you put in multiple waiver claims, and nobody else does, it's free pickings. So I think that us as a league, we need to just reevaluate where we stand on that. Do some internal thinking, reflection, self-assessment, and then we'll look at it next week. But I was the only one that made a waiver claim. I got the person that I wanted. Didn't want to risk anything else. Didn't have a lot of. There are other people that were available in regards to wide receiver and even some running back spots, and even in some quarterback spot. There are some good things. I know in years past we talked a lot about waiver wire and free agency, and there's almost nothing there. This year we're actually seeing some. There is some value there. Not saying that it's a lot of value, but there is value there if you need it. If you need a spot start, if you need somebody for that week. There's been some good talent through week 3. So I think that's encouraging. And I think that if people have wants and needs, like I said before, try not to be a broken record, put in a waiver claim, guys. If there's 3 guys you like, it's free agency waiver wire 101. There's 3 guys you like, prioritize them 1, 2, 3, put in your claims, hope that you get one of them. All right. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. You know, sorry to bring politics into fantasy football. I'm just kidding. I didn't. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the week 3 grades from our transactions. Thank you, Robin, for doing this. Of course, it took him probably all of about a minute and a half, but still. First free agent claim, the Cincinnati defense at 12:01 a.m. by Robin himself, Fart Apocalypse. Gave himself a B. Cleveland offense is doo-doo. And I would agree with that for the most part. I think they have the potential for, 1 or 2 touchdowns. Kaiser might make a few things happen. But I think, all in all, when it's all said and done, you're looking at a couple of sacks, maybe an interception, maybe a touchdown. So B grade on Cincinnati. We move on to the next transaction at 12:15 in the AM. The only waiver claim emphasized by Robin. Charles Clay, and then I dropped Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle getting me negative points was horrendous. Just absolutely horrendous. And I don't know. I know that Jack Doyle's like the tight end darling right now, and everybody loves him for fantasy. And maybe he'll bounce back this week, but not doing anything against Cleveland, which was supposed to be a premier matchup, and it just was so annoying. I've hated the tight end position this year. I miss Zach Ertz so much, but I picked up Charles Clay, dropped Jack Doyle. B+ grade, fuck tight ends, every single one of them. I agree. Thank you, Robin. Next transaction, free agency. Wendell Smallwood picked up. Zay Jones dropped by Pat. A team has no name. C, full-blown RBBC now in Philly. Maybe Smallwood can win the job outright. Yeah, that's another man, that's I think being in Pat's position where he's just looking to rebuild and look for the future, I think Wendell Smallwood is a good pickup. I don't know if the production will necessarily be there on a consistent basis because even though they just lost Darren Sproles, you're still looking at a three-headed monster. I think it's mainly going to be Smallwood doing that Sproles role and then Blunt being the first and second down back, and then the rookie that scored a touchdown. I think he'll kind of be sprinkled in there every once in a while. But I think it's a good pickup, and I think I'm imagining that this is for the future. So next at 2:59 in the AM, Jacksonville Jaguars picked up Atlanta defense, dropped B grade. Thanks for destroying Baltimore last week. Solid matchup this week versus the dumpster fire that is the Jets offense. Isn't that true? Except for Bilal Powell, who's going to get a heavy workload and 86 yards. 3 a.m. on the dot, same team, Pat, just getting after it. Rise and grind, ladies and gentlemen. Rise and grind. Ryan Suckup, Tennessee kicker, added. Chris Boswell dropped. C+. Roto World says this kicker will kick good. Car Ramrod, Joe Hardman, 3:33 in the AM. Picked up LeGarrette Blount, B-. Successfully got him back. Thought he might be claimed. I knew that Joe would go and get LeGarrette Blount. Car Ramrod, 3:38 a.m. Ryan Griffin, Houston tight end, dropped Eric Ebron. D grade, more tight end prayers, and then he wrote an F on Eric Ebron. I don't know if that was because Eric Ebron just deserves an F or an F. I don't know. I think Eric Ebron gets an F. Yeah. Golden Tate Warriors at 5:16 in the AM. Picks up the Green Bay defense, drops Pittsburgh, C-. Should have grabbed Kansas City. I may agree with that. Thursday night game, I think people... Never mind, I won't say it. I'm not going to coach you. You are one of the top teams in the league, scoring lots of points. You do you. I have my thoughts. Next, we have Nate Silver-Sith at 5:43 in the AM. Picks up Marlon Mack, drops Danny Amendola, B+, worthy stash. We've been saying that about Marlon Mack for the past few years. He'll probably be on the waiver wire again soon. 5:59 in the AM. Braggadocious 1-1 picks up Brandon Oliver. C. Handcuff for hopefully injury slowed Melvin Gordon. I rode the Brandon Oliver train a few years ago and did just fine. Braggadocious, not going to be the same for you. 5:59 in the AM. Underline in red. Gosh, that's way before 8 a.m. Whoa, shots fired. 6:06 in the AM. Braggadocious 101 strikes again. Kansas City defense drops New England. B. Considered grabbing them at 12:01 a.m. Kansas City. 7:01 a.m. Nate Silver-Sith back at it. Probably got a few more hours of sleep. Probably driving into work. Picks up Dallas. Drops Los Angeles. The Rams. You know what they said? They were talking about moving the Chargers back to San Diego, which would be so nice. Just move them back. Build them a new San Diego stadium. NFL, do it. NFL, build it. Just do it. They need it so bad. And LAC looks like the Clippers. I want to call them the Clippers every time I see them. It's stupid. We don't need it. Move them back to San Diego. Please. Please, please, please. Kind of a cool stadium down there. Been there for a couple of games. Went there for a couple San Diego State games. I like that stadium. Moving on to 8:04 a.m. Fart Apocalypse. Robin picks up Matt Breida. Drops Jordan Matthews, gives himself a B when Hyde went down. I was reminded that he does that. Very true. And not a bad pickup. He's shown some stuff. 8:46 in the AM. A team has no name. Pat picks up Alex Collins. Baltimore running back drops Jermaine Kearse. Interesting. Very interesting. C grade, to be honest, I don't know anything about Collins. You'd think that Jermaine Kearse would have more upside. Anyway, then we had a trade. This happened while I was at a meeting at work. I was originally proposed said trade, but could not do it. B+ for the Burt Churg, C- for Robin. Those were the two teams wheeling and dealing. Robin sends Rob Kelly into 13th for 7th round in return. He would never start for me, and I needed roster space. Car panic move. To be honest, I don't know anything about Collins. Oh, excuse me. That was the other one below it. I needed roster move. Car panic move. And I think it was a fine trade. I think, if anything, Robin got scared off of Rob Kelly being hurt. P. Ryan and Thomas emerging. I just hope that Tim continues to start him for the rest of the year and gets bamboozled. So, good sneaky pick, Robin. I like it. The Burt Churgs drop Rex Burkhead, New England running back. No grade, just says, yep. And then the last one that we had, Fart Apocalypse, 10:20 in the AM, picks up Carson Palmer. C grade, Carr versus Denver, panic move. So, Carson Palmer, I believe, is facing San Francisco this week. Very interesting. Week 3 grades, very nice. I appreciate it, Robin. 1 waiver claim, over-under set at 0.5 by Robin. Elliott took the over. I also took the over. I thought they would have been more. I honestly did. And that goes back to the discussion that I had earlier regarding waivers. And I think we're just, yeah. You guys hold on to your waivers. Wait for everybody else to pick them. I'll just keep snagging guys I want. Bunch of schmucks. So thank you so much, Robin, for doing this. As always, extremely entertaining. Let's jump into the games, shall we? Week 4. Here we go. This will be paired with Patty projections. As I said, Pat doing his thing. Yahoo thinks they have their thing going, but Pat has his. So the first one we're going to do is we have Braggadocious 1-1 against Fart Apocalypse. 2-1 versus 3-0. The number 1 team versus the number 5 team. Originally projected to be the number 1 team by the end of the year, Matt Keyser. And by the looks of it, his team is starting to act that way. Yahoo has it projected 128 to 122. That's essentially a coin flip in my book. Patty has it 112 to 104. He circled first place by Robin's name and said not going to last. Let's go ahead and break this one down. Patty has it projected 24 points for Drew Brees. A.J. Green, Antonio Brown, and Keenan Allen combined for 26 points. Keenan Allen, bad, written next to it. Melvin Gordon, hurt, will only get 4 points. Then Le'Veon Bell and Rob Gronkowski, 17 points each. Jimmy Graham, 1 point, also hurt. Why don't you trade with me, Keyser? Let me get some Jimmy Graham. Let's do it. You don't want him. You don't want to do 2 tight ends. History of 2 tight ends in this league, horrible. Matt Prater projected to score 11 points in Kansas City. Projected to get 2 from Patty. So, just very bad. Monday night, Washington. Patty's not feeling it. Carson Palmer against San Francisco. Patty just wrote 2 points and then bad. Julio Jones, 16. Demaryius Thomas, 5. Devontae Adams, 4. And then Kareem Hunt projected for 39 points. Shady McCoy, 12. And then Hunter Henry and C.J. Anderson, 1 point each. Bad next to C.J. Anderson. Graham Gano in Cincinnati, 12 points each. So, Patty has it 112 to 104. Yahoo 128 to 122. Next game. As I take my sip of coffee. Fighting Sponges against Car Ramrod. Yahoo has a 116, 119 currently. That means Joe is favored. No coin flip there, ladies and gentlemen. Russell Wilson, Emmanuel Sanders, Odell Beckham, Jordy Nelson, Carlos Hyde, Todd Gurley, not Robert Griffin, whatever the new young tight end is, Stephon Diggs, Gostkowski, and Denver. Lots of double-digit predicted scoring. 177 to 118 is what Pat is predicting. I'm going to get 64 points from Aaron Rodgers. The God. Mike Evans is only going to get me 4. And then I'm going to get the Mark Ingram 12-point monster game. I love it. And then Tyler Lockett, who actually I took him out and put in, with the recent news, I put in Bilal Powell. So Lockett with the big fat 0. Clay with 6 points, gets a question mark in who. And then the Carolina defense against New England. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be holding on to them. We'll see, though. Golden Tate Warriors and the Birchurgs. This is Matty Hughes against Tim. Circled Tim's new logo. Like we said, the silhouette of a man, feet up in the air, having a funnel of beer going into his butt. Weird logo indeed. Tim is weird, he says. Yikes. 49 to 70 is a projection. Yahoo has it at 117 to 113. It's a coin flip. But 49 to 70 is Patty's projection. He has the Golden Tate Warriors taking a big fat L actually this week against the Birchurgs. Tim is the 21-point favorite. Tom Brady's only going to score 11 points because he's old. Golden Tate is bad. Will only get 2 points. Ty Montgomery will only get 1 point because he's bad. Larry Fitzgerald will also only get 4 points because he's old. DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, and Ezekiel Elliott all get 4 points. Emphasis on the 4s. But Rob Kelly, little after the trade with Robin, arrow pointing to Rob Kelly, collusion trade. I agree. I think that should be reviewed by the commissioner. Nate Silver Sith against Sparty Party. Projection 95 to 93. It's a coin flip. Patty has 72-72 tie. I love it. Nate Silver Sith classic, emphasized by Pat. And a couple of goose eggs. Dallas is going to get 0 points. The defense, Tavecchio, 0 points. The Oakland kicker. Apparently no kickers or defenses are allowed to score points. Even though he has God written next to the Detroit defense, they're not getting any points. So it's awesome. But he did write, Scott, this is encouraging. He underlined your own 3 record and said, will improve. And I don't know if Scott wants to hear that. I don't think he wants to improve. I think he wants the number 1 spot. The next game we have, I don't know what this is, but Pat put in between the two teams. Looks like a singing angel. I don't know. Or it's a Pokemon. Baked Brie against the Teabaggers. Tahir versus Brienne. 0-3 against 3-0. Baked Brie underlined with dumb. Pat does not like the name. The Teabaggers, the T between the and baggers circled with T for Tahir. Very interesting breakdown. Carson Wentz, bad, 5 points. Mike Wallace, who? 12 points. Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson, both with a question mark, but they both get 14 and 19 points. Dante Moncrief, who? 13 points, and then scribbled out Matt Bryan in Arizona, and they get points too. Everybody's bad. Phillip Rivers, bad, 5 points. Delvin Cook, bad, 0 points. Tyreek Cohn, bad, 5 points. And then Lutz, New Orleans kicker, bad, 1 point. Brian's going to take this one 119 to 93, according to Patty. And I like that, Patty. Give him that L, Brian. Daddy needs to make a run. A team has no name. The last matchup against It Wasn't the Handle, which is Marcos's new team, has a nice picture of flapjacks, which is a reference to Beer Fest, in which they go and get Barry Batternaff underneath the overpass bridge on the freeway where he's giving out ZJs. And if you don't know what a ZJ is, you can't afford it. And then he's referencing playing paddle games, ding dang and ding dong something or other, shit and flapjacks. 0 to 113. Pat will not score a point. He circled his 1-2 record and said, how did this happen? Bad all around. 113 to 0. Marcos gets after it. The 113 points, 112 of it is going to come from Joe Mixon, the god, and then 1 point from the Seattle defense. They probably give up a ton of points and then get a sack. So I like it. Thank you, Patty, for the projections. That was some good stuff. I loved it. Thank you. So we'll do a little bit more of a detailed breakdown. I'll give you my thoughts, which are nowhere near as good as Pat's. I think that his are above and away far more entertaining than mine. But let's go ahead and do mine, and we'll see what's significant. Aaron Rodgers against Chicago. Chicago a little bit better defensively than we give him credit for. Aaron Rodgers has some interesting Thursday night split, so I'm not feeling super confident about the 22, but I'm hoping that if he is going to have a good Thursday night game, it's a great one. And then looking at Joe's quarterback, Russell Wilson, against Indianapolis, it's going to be hard to sit him after what he did last week. And Indy actually surprisingly has been a little bit more staunch on defense after the first week, and they look better. They definitely look better. And if the offense can help them out like they did last year, it could maybe slow down Russell Wilson a little bit. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to get his touchdown or touchdowns against Tampa Bay. The Jordy Nelson eating into the Aaron Rodgers production maybe a little bit, but we'll see. Thursday nights are weird. They're usually more run heavy, more slowed down, basic play script, unless you're the 49ers and the Rams. Let's have them play every Thursday. Those guys were entertaining as fuck. Jay against Arizona. Against New Orleans. Interesting matchup there. We'll see what happens. Can they open things up a little bit? And then Mark Ingram. I'm loving it. Don't play Adrian Peterson. Make him go bye-bye. Let's get Ingram the workload that he so deserves. Same with Bilal Powell against Jacksonville. Get the man the rock. Get him the rock. Get Forte out of there. We need Bilal Powell to just get loads and loads and loads of work. Make some magic happen. And then in terms of the running backs for Joe, Carlos Hyde and Todd Gurley coming off of monster games. And then Stephon Diggs against Detroit. That will be an interesting matchup. What can Case Keenum do against this Detroit defense, which has been absolutely mammoth all season long? But Joe with the 29 points on the bench week 3 has to start him, wants to start him going forward. And the new projection actually for this 105 to 119, I can't remember if it might have been 106, but I put in Powell for Tyler Lockett, and we'll see what happens there. Let's go ahead and look at Nate Silver Sith against Scott, who has changed his name to Alcoholics Unanimous. Very nice. Cool picture. I think that's him falling face first over a couch. I'm going to say it's him. Why not? It's going to be awesome. Scott's going to beat Elliott this week. It's going to be super cool. I'm going to go to 1-3. Elliott's going to go to 2-2. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. Kirk Cousins is going to throw so many touchdowns to my guys. Mike Crabtree's in there still. Elliott's going to ride the injured chest of Michael Crabtree, hopefully to victory. It's probably not going to be that big a deal, to be honest with you. He's already back and practicing, so I can't imagine the chest injury is anything that's that significant. There's been a number of chest injuries actually this year, and people taking significant time out. But Mike Crabtree, if he's good to go, then I think that the Denver defense, I think they've had one elite game, and then the rest of the games they've been So even though after Oakland's horrible performance on the road in Washington last week, I think there's going to be opportunities against Denver, even though it is in Denver. They're definitely going to be looking to have a bounce back game. I think it was them going. West Coast teams are notoriously bad going to the East Coast, and it just kind of that showed it. And so I think Michael Crabtree, if he plays, he's going to get his usual red zone targets, and you're hoping for a touchdown out of him there. And Dak Prescott going up against the Rams, can he have another big game? I think last week probably sparked a few things, and I think we're going to see this offense open it up a little bit. So that's kind of cool. And then any other potential significant, the Detroit against Minnesota, even though it is at Minnesota, that's going to be interesting for Scott. And then the tight end position for Elliott stands out to me. Reed, questionable. He always is. Got a big goose egg against Oakland. Will he come back and do his thing against Kansas City? If he plays, you have to like the matchup. Ever since they lost their safety, it's just the matchup is not as scary for tight ends anymore. Ever since that happened, so have to like Jordan Reed. Let's move on to the Golden Tate Warriors against the Birchurgs. 2-1 versus 1-2. 117 to 113 is a projection. Tom Brady against Carolina at home. I think Tom Brady will do Tom Brady things. And then Amari Cooper. I don't know what's been going on with him. He is questionable. Outside of week 1, single digits. 5-5 the past 2 weeks against the Jets, against Washington. It's been really weird. This is not the Amari Cooper that I think we were hoping to see. And some pretty good matchups. Tennessee was a good matchup. New York should have been an amazing matchup, but only 5 targets. It's really weird. And then at Washington, only 5 targets for 6 yards. He's got a knee issue going on. I don't know if it's affecting him, but I think you got to start evaluating Amari Cooper, and maybe you look to the bench. I don't know. I think you might have to look at his matchups a little bit more carefully if this kind of production keeps going, but you got to be hoping for a bounce back. And then Golden Tate, Devontae Parker, Tamazoe Fitzgerald trying to, go off again. Monster game, week 3, 15 targets, 13 receptions, 149 yards and a touchdown. Phenomenal game. Larry Fitzgerald. We'll see what his role is going forward. The wide receivers have been an absolute clusterfuck in Arizona. We'll see what happens. And then Hopkins and Thomas and Elliott and Howard. I know that Tim's a dog in this one, but to be honest with you, his team has some potential to absolutely blow up. Zeke against the Rams. I don't think anybody's buying the Rams defense. And then Howard, he's just an amazing running back. We talked about it before. For what this offense is, and defenses know that he's getting the ball, he gets the ball and he does crazy things anyway. I'm not saying that he is DJ-esque, or, I'm not trying to say that he is like DJ, but he is DJ-esque in that regard. He is a 3-down back, catches balls, runs between the tackles, runs outside. I guess it's just, will he stay healthy? We'll see. And then Rob Kelly starting, I like it. He's going to get you nothing, Tim. Nothing. Montgomery is going Thursday night. That's another one. So these two guys have running backs going. I forgot to mention, I did mention the fact that Rodgers is on my team, Jordy Nelson on Joe's team. They are also going tonight. Fairly significant. It's interesting because, yeah, it's whenever you have that going on, it's always an interesting interaction, especially the fact that it's a number one receiver with the quarterback. You wonder what's going to happen with game flow Thursday night. You know, if Rodgers has a bad game, does that mean Jordy has a bad game? Or does it mean that Rodgers can still have a bad game and Jordy get a touchdown and maybe 60 yards? Like maybe Rodgers only has 200 yards passing, but maybe, 60 of it goes to Jordy and he gets a touchdown. Who knows? So it's going to be interesting to watch. And then Martellus Bennett also going for Matt tonight. He's been really quiet this year. He's been getting targets. He got 6 and 11 in weeks 1 and 2. Only 3 and 5 catches. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. But a lot of significant fantasy people going tonight. And then looking at, it wasn't the handle, Marcos against Pat. Mariota looking to have some type of a bounce back game against Houston. He's been pretty good. 18 points, 14 points, and then 19 points. I guess that's not really a bounce back game. He had a good game against Seattle. I think the only thing was that the passing yards weren't there. He had 225 and 2. So that just means that he did a little bit more on his feet. But I think everybody's kind of waiting for that Mariota game that he had so many times last year, where it was 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. I think everybody's kind of waiting for that. And will it happen against Houston? I don't know. They're such a mystery. They're still good defensively, I think. They're doing some things on offense. So that'll be interesting. And then, of course, the reemergence of T.Y. Hilton, possibly. 21 points last week. Can he do the same thing against Seattle? He has a quarterback that seems to be willing to throw him the ball. And then Brandon Cooks had his blow-up game, 27 points. That's really what you're hoping for. And then in regards to Pat, I think he's kind of just excited to see how his young guys do. Robbie Anderson got his touchdown last week. I think he's definitely hoping that he's going to be getting more of those downfield targets. And then looking at Chris Carson, can he keep it going? Wendell Smallwood, now that there's one less back to feed, does his workload increase? So Pat's kind of using these games to see what his young guys do. Does Golladay come back and make an impact? Deshaun Jackson's always up and ready for a big play and a touchdown. So it's going to be fun for Pat to kind of see how these young guys do. And then in regards to DeMarco Murray, I think everybody's kind of like, oh man, he's obviously fine. Slow first 2 weeks and then blew up for 115 and the touchdown last week. What's he going to do this week against Houston? I think Marcos is excited to see how that goes. For what should be, he's heavily favored, 117 to 88. So I don't think Marcos is sweating it too much. And I think both these guys are really just taking this week to just see how their talent goes. And then the coin flip, that is braggadocious and fart apocalypse, has some big implications for a number of things. One being points, and then both men jockeying for the number one spot in their respective divisions. Drew Brees against Miami. I mean, there's a lot of big potential here. A.J. Green at Cleveland, Antonio Brown at Baltimore, which is a rivalry game. And I always talked about those AFC North games. They can either be meat grinders, where they're low scoring, not a lot of offense, or they can be shootouts. I think if you are the Antonio Brown owner, you're definitely hoping for a shootout. Robin did drop the Baltimore defense last week, and probably a good call. And then other significant things to watch out for, Le'Veon Bell at the running back spot, and then after Matt Keiser trades me Jimmy Graham, he can go ahead and move Martavis Bryant into the flex spot. But Le'Veon Bell looking to keep it going. Very slow first 2 weeks, 4 and 9 points, not what you're expecting. Last week, the quality was much better. The workload was reduced by 12. He had 27 attempts in week 2, only 15 week 3, but 61 yards against the 87, and he got a touchdown. I think you're hoping for Le'Veon Bell to keep that consistency going forward. And Robin has a good matchup with Carson Palmer. He had 21 points last week at home against Dallas. He's home again against San Francisco, a defense that I maybe thought would be okay, but now I don't know anymore after the Rams game. So Robin hoping for some good things there. And then, of course, you have the Julio Jones and LaShawn McCoy and Kareem Hunt all hoping for or not all hoping, but you're hoping for Julio Jones to get his first big game. The yardage has been there. The touchdowns have not. And then Shady, you're kind of hoping that he's going to get it going. He had the big week 1, but then the past 2 weeks he's really slowed down. And Kareem Hunt has just been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Already over 80 points. This could be a 300-point season for him. Hunter Henry, sticking with him against Philly. Good defense there, but you're hoping that he'll get a touchdown. And then CJ, you're hoping for a bounce-back game against Oakland. So a lot of big matchups in this game. Robin definitely is. There's going to be a lot of touchdowns on Matt Keiser's teams. You're looking at almost 5 to 7 potential touchdowns on his team. Robin has some good touchdown potential on his team. It's really going to come down to which of the players are going to have a monster game. We've seen it week after week from Kareem Hunt. I don't know if we've seen the monster game from any of Matt Keiser's players per se, but as a collective unit, everybody's been really, really good, starting last week against me, of course. And I think this is going to come down to somebody having the big game. I'm not sure who it is. Quarterback play is going to be really important too. Drew Brees on the road at Miami, notoriously not very good. Carson Palmer should be good at home. He hasn't been very good, but last week was very promising, getting a lot of different people involved. I think the quarterback play is super huge, and then if one of these guys can go and have a humongous game, multi-touchdown game, triple digits in yards, you're kind of looking for that to put themselves over the top of the other person. So I think it's going to be whose quarterback performs better and where the big game comes from. That's, I think, going to be the key. Let's go down to the final game, and then we'll get out of here. Baked Brie against the Teabaggers, 0-3 against 3-0. Tahir favored, about a 10-point favorite. Interesting matchups here. Phillip Rivers looking to bounce back against Philly at home. And then Carson Wentz on the road against the Chargers. You have to like, even though it is a road game, you have to like the Wentz matchup. The Chargers lost their premier cornerback, so it's going to be the matchup's going to look a little bit better for Carson Wentz. He has some good potential for big games. He's been really good the first 2 weeks, and the last week he only had 13 points. But it's against a good Giants defense. Like that's, I think you give him a pass on that. But you need a good game out of Carson Wentz. You're looking for a touchdown by Dez Bryant, which he'll probably get against the Rams. Maybe not huge in yardage, but you look at, he's had 2 touchdowns in the past 2 games. Topped out at 12 in week 2. He had 7 last week. I think that's kind of the range you're thinking in regards to him. he's never been a huge yardage monster. He's capable of having big games, but you're mostly looking at touchdown potential with him. And then Chris Hogan coming off of the big game. Can he have another monster? 6 targets, 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and 68 yards receiving. And then the Cleveland running backs looked really good. And they have another possible good matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati got, I'm blanking on their middle linebacker back, but there's some potential there. Cook against the Detroit defense at home. That's going to be interesting. And then can Tyreek Cohen keep it going against Green Bay? Of course, the big thing that he needs is he needs Howard to stay healthy because that helps him out a lot. And then Travis Kelce, hoping to have a bounce-back game, had a really good week 2. Week 1 and week 3, not good. 1 target, 1 reception, 1 yard in week 3. Really weird. Hoping for a good bounce-back. Brian has a chance. She needs Carson Wentz to have a big game, which he's capable of. And then she needs Des Bryant to hit double digits, kind of hoping for everybody else to stay pat. And then will the Cleveland running backs be able to do something? I'm really interested to see what Kyle Rudolph does. I was a big Kyle Rudolph fan going into this year. Week 1 showed that he was going to be involved, especially around the red zone. But then the past 2 weeks, not very good. I would like to see him get involved a little bit more. He's a really, really good tight end. And then this may sound crazy, but I also think that a big part of this game is actually going to come down to the kickers. I think that Matt Bryant has the potential to put up a big game. And then Lutz on the road at Miami. Outdoors, probably not the best conditions out there. Definitely capable. I mean, he's had some pretty darn good games so far this season. 14 points, 9 points, and 12 points. Better than what I've had. Kickers have been really good. But that's going to be one to watch, too. Give the edge to Bryant, definitely. He could have a big double-digit game. And then, with Lutz, what's he going to be able to do? What's the New Orleans offense going to be able to do? That's going to be a fun one to watch. And then especially in defenses, this is going to be one of those games where actually kickers and defenses are going to be fairly significant. Arizona with a good matchup against San Francisco, and then Philadelphia with a potentially good matchup against the Chargers, depending on how they show up. But you have to give the edge to Brienne there. So there might be some points heads towards Brienne a little bit in that kicker and defensive spot. And then, of course, she's rolling the dice with Moncrief. With the emergence of T.Y. Hilton last year, the offense is kind of moving the ball now. Does Moncrief get involved in the red zone? He was always a red zone monster. We'll look and see. It is Seattle, which is going to be really tough. And then can Marshawn Lynch on the road bounce back? He had a solid week 1 and week 2, double-digit points, got a touchdown. Absolutely horrible against Washington, only 6 carries. What's he going to do at Denver this week? That's going to be interesting. That flex, kicker, and defensive spot, I think, is going to be really big. And then will Randall Cobb, he's healthy again, presumably. He is playing tonight. Tyreek Cohen also playing tonight. There's a lot riding on this Thursday night game, where in the past maybe not so much. I know that last week Joe had 2 running backs going in Carr and Gurley, but across the league there are a ton of fantasy players going. So it's going to be an entertaining Thursday night. I think it's going to be very active. A lot of people watching. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm going to wrap this up. Get this posted. Get it up there for lunchtime for us on the West Coast. For you East Coasters, you'll be on the tail end of heading home. Enjoy that. Thank you guys so much for listening. I don't wish anybody luck for week 4. Y'all can go F yourselves. But have a good one. Hit me up on Twitter at Peter Livingston, ffdynastypod at gmail.com. Thank you. And have a lovely Thursday.